All right, today we're going to challenge some pretty common ideas about how we all learn. We tend to think that learning should feel easy, maybe even fun and simple. But what if I told you that the most powerful, the most meaningful learning actually starts with confusion, with making mistakes, and even a little bit of discomfort? Yeah, let's dive into how that really works. Okay, so let me ask you a simple question. Take a look at this square. Got it? Now imagine a second square, but its sides are twice as long. So is that new square twice as big? I mean, the area? The answer feels pretty obvious, right? Most of us, me included, would probably just jump in and say, yeah, of course it is. Well, believe it or not, this exact same puzzle was put to a young boy over 2,000 years ago by the philosopher Socrates. And guess what? That boy, just like most of us, confidently said yes. And he was totally wrong. This quote here really hits the nail on the head. The boy's certainty, the fact that he thought he knew the answer, was the very thing that blinded him to the truth. And this gets us to the heart of the learning paradox, doesn't it? How can you learn something you don't even know you don't know? It's a real head-scratcher. For that boy, his confidence was a brick wall. He wasn't looking for a new answer, because in his mind, he already had the right one. So the big question is, how in the world do you break through that wall? So what Socrates did next was brilliant. He didn't just tell the boy the right answer. That would have been way too easy and honestly wouldn't have stuck. Instead, he just started asking questions. He guided the boy step by step through his own thinking until, oops, the boy's own answers started to contradict each other. And right then, the boy saw his mistake for himself. The square wasn't twice as big, it was 4 times bigger. Now, that was a huge aha moment, but it probably didn't feel great. It felt unsettling. Socrates had a name for this feeling of unease, perplexity, and he argued that this is where real learning actually begins. So let's really dig into that feeling for a second. We're always told that learning should be fun, right? But the truth is, real, deep learning, it often starts with that feeling of perplexity. That feeling of being a little lost, a little confused. It's like you're looking at a map of a city you thought you knew, and suddenly there's a huge blank spot right in the middle. It's unsettling. And this whole idea is actually something the psychologist Jean Piaget studied in depth. Let's use a simple example. Imagine a little kid who knows what a lizard is. It's got 4 legs, it's a reptile, check. Then they see a snake for the first time. Their brain immediately tries to file it away in a known folder. Hey, another lizard. That's called assimilation. But then, wait a minute, this one has no legs. That new information just doesn't fit. It clashes with the lizard folder. That uncomfortable moment of conflict, Piaget called that disequilibrium. And to fix it, the brain has to do something new. It has to create a whole new folder called snake. That's accommodation. And just like that, a deeper understanding is created, all because of that initial confusion. So let's call it what it is, disequilibrium. And I want to be super clear about this. This feeling is not a sign that you're failing. It is literally the engine of learning. It's that feeling of being mentally off balance when the world in front of you doesn't quite match the world inside your head. It's that moment your brain just goes, hang on, something isn't right here. And that's the trigger. That's what forces it to grow. Which brings us right back to that core paradox we talked about. Sometimes the stuff we already know, well, it can become like a fortress, and the walls are so high that new information just can't get in. It's wild, but our existing beliefs, especially the ones we're super confident about, can end up being our biggest blind spots. Okay, so if being wrong is actually the gateway to learning, then we've got to totally flip the script on how we think about mistakes. They're not something to be afraid of or avoided at all costs. In fact, they might just be the single most valuable tool we have in our learning toolkit. And to really see why, just look at these 2 completely different classrooms. On one hand, you have the kind of environment Maya Angelou describes learning from her Uncle Willie. His classroom was just ruled by fear. You make a mistake, you get punished. The entire goal was just, don't mess up. Understanding didn't even factor into it. Now compare that with the Socratic method, where you're encouraged to guess. Because a mistake isn't seen as a failure, it's seen as this perfect little piece of data that shows you exactly where the confusion is. And this quote from Angelou, wow, it just captures the outcome of that fear-based learning perfectly. She said they could all recite the times tables, no problem. They had the facts memorized cold. But because they were so terrified of making a mistake, of exploring, they never actually understood the grand principle behind it all. It's just surface-level memorization, super brittle, with no real foundation.
Now, be honest for a second. Have you ever been in a meeting or a class or even just talking with friends and you just nod along pretending you get it because you're scared of looking dumb if you admit you're lost? Of course you have. We've all done it.
This little poem here just nails that feeling. It's so stressful to keep up the act, right? But that fear of being found out, of revealing our own ignorance, man, that can feel even worse. And when you're in that state, when you're pretending, learning is basically impossible. You can't ask a question, you can't risk being wrong, you are just stuck. So, what do we do about it? Well, the philosopher Daniel Dennett has this great take. He says it's not enough to just be okay with making mistakes. No, you have to use them actively. Think about it. When you mess up, you've just created this amazing, messy pile of data. And the real trick is to dig into that mess, take advantage of it. Ask yourself, okay, what exactly went wrong here? Why? When you pay attention to the details of your failures, your next try isn't just another random guess. It's an informed, smarter attempt.
All right, so we get it. Learning kicks in when we're confused, when we make mistakes. But how do we actually get from I don't get it to aha, now I see? How do we bridge that gap between the known and the unknown? Because let's face it, we can't always do it on our own.
This is where a really cool educational idea called scaffolding comes into play. And the name is perfect. Just think of the metal scaffolding you see on the side of a building while it's being built. It's not part of the final structure, right? But there's no way they could build that skyscraper without it. Well, in learning, scaffolding is exactly that. It's the temporary support from a teacher or a guide that lets you stretch and reach just a little bit higher than you could by yourself. And this metaphor is so powerful because it reminds us that ultimately, no one can build your tower of knowledge for you. That's your job. The learning, the actual construction, it has to be your own work. But a great guide or a great teacher provides that crucial scaffold, that framework that helps you get up to the next level, the one that was just out of your grasp a minute ago. So what does this guide actually do? Well, notice what they don't do. They don't just hand you the answers. Instead, they give you feedback on your mistakes. They help you look at the problem in a new way. And this is key. As you start to get it, they slowly back off, offering less and less help, so you can learn to stand on your own. See, their job isn't to build your tower for you. It's to empower you to become a master builder yourself. So what's the big takeaway for all of us? It means we need to stop thinking of learning as this passive thing that just happens to us. We need to reframe it as an active, personal quest, a journey where you are the hero. So here's your new learning toolkit, your new mindset. Number 1, embrace confusion. When you feel perplexed, you're not dumb. You are right on the edge of a breakthrough. Number 2, treat your mistakes like treasure. They're valuable data, not failures. Dig in, analyze them. Number 3, ask questions. Ask the stupid questions. They're often the most important ones. And finally, and maybe most importantly, always be willing to question the things you're most sure about, because that is where the most profound growth happens. And so I'll leave you with one final question to chew on. What is one thing, one idea, one belief, one fact that you know for sure, something you hold with absolute certainty? Now ask yourself, what if that certainty, just like it was for that young boy with Socrates, is the one thing standing between you and your next big discovery?